we'll get going today with our luncheon. Obviously, a few people made it, and hopefully plenty are watching back at home or at work or wherever they are. So we got a little bit of recap to do from the past weekend. A couple things did get canceled. A couple things coming up. Come on in, guys. And looking forward to getting football back going and a couple other sports that didn't get to participate last week, whether it was a bye or the snowstorm. So soccer is up at Mary on Saturday, and I think that's just the one game. Obviously, Joe will talk about that too, as our so-called travel partners, I guess, and get a chance to get up there after their long trip. But this past weekend, they probably got a little bit longer. Tonight, we play Schafer in volleyball, 6 o'clock start. Tiffany will talk about that. And then they're on the road, I think to Joplin, Missouri this weekend. So I'll tell you about that long trip as well. And then back here on Sunday, too. So before we do meet again, they have 5 or 6 games before she gets to talk about next week or next Tuesday. Football, obviously, is back at home after having a bye, which worked out pretty good with the storm and things, and a chance to talk about how that's going with the field and all those wonderful, wonderful things that we get to deal with up north here. That's actually south, so haven't quite figured that out. I got a chance to talk to all the North Dakota guys that were making fun of us. It was 70 degrees up in Minot, and it was blizzarding here, so I'll make up for that in January. And then the cross country, which was not canceled, they probably ran, but we couldn't get there, and Jerry will talk a little bit about that, and heading, I believe, to Billings this weekend. So a chance for them to go compete again. So we'll get going with Joe, and hopefully see all you back tonight for the volleyball match. Here's Joe Berger.
Well, thanks for having me again. I guess we were the lucky ones. We weren't here for the blizzard. We were on the road. We were on a long bus trip. We left Wednesday night and played in a torrential downpour at Billings. And then the guys played great. A little unfortunate on a couple calls, but we were down 2-0, fought back 2-2, and then got an unfortunate penalty to go 3-2, and then they caught us again as we're chasing the game. Right as they save a ball, we have a ball off the line. They go down and score, so 4-2. So then we get on the bus after Billings, and we have to go through Bozeman over the pass to get to Idaho Falls as we break up our trip. And thank goodness for Ray, our bus driver, to get us there safely because it was blizzarding in the mountains through Montana. So we were able to get to our Idaho Falls, and then there it was 65 degrees at 11 o'clock at night, and we knew we were going to be safe. So then the next day we went on into Nampa, got settled, and then we played a very salty Northwest Nazarene team. Made an early mistake, it was our fault, just a young mistake, didn't close a gap off our thing, they go down, score, and then we give up a penalty again. This was just kind of laziness, and then the second half we were much, much better, had 60% of the possession, just had a hard time getting our shots off. And then we tracked to Salt Lake City and stayed the night in Salt Lake City because we could not get back to Rapid City, and then 9 hours back from Salt Lake City on Sunday. Luckily, we were able to get in late Sunday night. I think some of our bright spots, a few of our sophomores are starting to fight and really take over the team leadership-wise, which is good to see. It's better to have them barking as not just myself, but hear them mean some to them. And then, we got some guys really improving their game. Tim Tribbett leads the country in saves, which is good. So we're going. Mike McGraw has scored 4 goals, and he is really fighting and competing. Gabe Domke has been solid. Nate Fricky, we moved him to the midfield, and he's changed our team, giving us service. We scored probably the prettiest goal of the year against Billings for our second one. Ball comes from Derek Santo out to Nate Fricky. Nate beats this guy, whips it in for Max McGrath, who volleyed it into the back of the net one time, so it was good. The soccer's good. It's just trying to make sure that we figure out how to win. We have a great opportunity in Mary. They're in a similar situation as we are. Their season isn't going quite how they expected as well, so it's good. The other good thing is after that, out of our next 7 games, we're at home for 5 of them. So I'm sure that's a relief for our students. They missed a lot of class. I know that's kind of wearing on them a little bit. But we're looking forward to being home and getting past this stretch. And then number 1 in the country comes to our house a week from Thursday, Simon Fraser. So that will be it'll be fun to host them at Sioux Park the next week. So that's good. That's kind of on us. The guys are working hard there in the weight room today. Looks like we'll practice inside tonight. Just to make sure that we're staying dry and not soggy and going, and so we're able to support the volleyball team at their match tonight. So we're looking forward to it. It's hard for me to remember that we are freshmen, sophomores, and we're in 10 games into most of their careers, and then we're 22 games into the other 7 or 8 guys that we have on the team. So we have long-term written on our board for a reason. Hopefully the kids are keep fighting, keep going. But I cannot be disappointed in their performance. They battle every week. It's just eliminating some of those mistakes that we make over and over and over. Any questions for me? Yes?
I just have a in general question for some of the novice soccer fans.
Okay.
Can you explain the overtime process and how ties work in our conference?
Right. What happens if a game is in overtime? If the game is tied at regulation, say it's 1-1, 0-0, 2-2, you play 2 10-minute overtimes. They're both sudden victory or sudden death or golden goal or whatever you call them. So if somebody scores, the game is over right there. But you play 2 of them. If the game is over, if you play the 20 minutes and nobody scores, then it goes at a tie. In our conference, you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, and 0 points for a loss. So it goes on a point system to determine the conference championship and regional rankings and everything. So it's pretty unique to soccer. We can't end in a draw. And as you start playing teams twice, you'll probably see a lot more draws in the conference than you expect, because once you're familiar with somebody, you kind of understand what to expect. And that's the beauty of conference play a little bit. You get in there, and once we learn these guys, styles don't change over the years. And at my old schools, you knew exactly what one school was going to be like because you played them for 6 years. Their coach isn't going to change the way they play. They're going to be like this. So we've kind of been through the first round of this. We have our last game with Mary on our first rotation, then we get everybody again. So we're looking forward to it, and then we get 80% of them at home, which is good for us, I think, because always traveling is hard, and home is where you got to get your points. You got to get your points at home. So if we can get some points and get on the chart, that would be good. So it's kind of how the overtime works. So you can add 20 minutes on to the game for overtime. Any other questions? Good. Thank you. I'd like to bring up volleyball coach Tiffany McCampbell, and she can talk about tonight's match and her weekend.
Thanks, Joe. We actually had a bye weekend as well, so we enjoyed 3 days of nice, wonderful rest inside our homes. But I do want to recap, since we were gone last week, we had a pretty decent weekend 2 weekends ago where we hosted University of Nebraska Kearney, which was the number 3 ranked team in the country. Then we went to Black Hills State, and then we traveled to Colorado Christian last week. And we finished 2 weeks ago with a record of 1-2. We took Kearney to 4 sets. We beat Black Hills in 5, which is always a great day to be able to beat them. And then we lost in Colorado Christian in 5 sets. And I think the biggest thing I want to kind of talk about today is just, we're a young team, but eventually the young team and the young freshmen have to grow up and mature as far as their court level of play. And we've got into a rotation where we've got 8, 9 players that we're kind of playing through, 4 of which are freshmen, but they're talented freshmen to be able to sustain and play at this Division II level. Things we're kind of finding out, we're much better team when we're high energy, and we're a much better team when we just kind of enjoy the process and try to get better on a day-to-day. If you think back to our first weekend when we played Nebraska Kearney and we played Chadron State back in September, we are 100 times its day and night as far as the energy we play with, the skill level we play with, just the skill set we play with. So kind of like what Coach Berger was saying, and we're doing our jobs if we're getting better day to day, week to week, training these kids to be better athletes, and remembering that this is a process, and that's not really a cop-out on our perspective, but we've got to continue to just get these kids better day to day that way. Today we have our biggest weekend by far. We have 6 matches. We have 10 matches left, and we have 6 of them this week. So this week is going to be a really crucial time for our kids. We've got Chadron State. We're hosting them tonight at 6 o'clock, and then we fly down to Joplin, Missouri, where we play 4 MIAA teams this weekend, and then we come back and play Mesa State on Sunday. So it is not an easy 6 games by any means, but it's indicative of what Division II volleyball is. If we want to be a good program and continue to get better, we're going to need to compete. And on a positive of that, like we said, we've competed. We've played 4 and 5 sets every game since that second weekend in Sioux Falls where we just didn't play very well. So, we've got to find a way to finish and fight, but we've also got to find a way to just keep competing. And if you're playing 4 sets and 5 sets, it means you're at least standing there and trying to play hard. So that's good. Some highlights back from 2 weeks ago, Carson Garcia had 144 assists in 3 matches. Justine Blade is playing very well. She had 36 kills in 3 matches. Sam Johnson had 43 kills in those 3 matches. And our libero, Michaela Weiss, who's a freshman, had 80 digs in those 3 matches, which obviously gives her over 20 per set, which is a huge number. And I think Michaela's really keeping us in some of these games just with her energy, with her enthusiasm, and then obviously we've got to have some better ball control to be able to compete at this level. So does anybody have any questions for me? Yes?
How does the MIAA stack up in volleyball West?
MIAA is very good. We're going to play some teams that are under 500 this weekend, but they are fully funded, and we kind of associate the fully funded in scholarships where with the Northern Sun and the MIAA. So even if it's a team coming in, let's say they're 1 and 12, they're going to be phenomenal because they're playing very high level volleyball every night. So it's going to be a good test for us this weekend to be able to compete against some different athletes that we haven't seen out of that conference. And it's some coaches that have been around for a long time, so it's kind of nice to just have our teams compete in those settings that way. And I'm really glad we're flying and not spending 14 hours on a bus. So. Any other questions? Okay. I would like to introduce Coach Schafer, men's and women's cross country coach.
As Jason said, we did not compete this last weekend. With the storm coming, it was going to be kind of iffy getting out of town to Brookings, and the weather there was going to be a little iffy as well. And so we opted to stay home and tuck ourselves in during the major storm. We did work out Friday morning fairly early, before I suppose right after campus had been closed. So we did get a good workout in on the treadmill. And then it was a good thing because Saturday and Sunday they were on their own to try and get up here and get in the wellness center. And then yesterday we started the new week with another treadmill workout. So on the way home last night, I was looking for a dry place to run, and I think I've located one today. So we are actually going to get to run on hard, steady surface for a change, and we're kind of excited about that. We do run in Billings this week, and as far as I know, the last I heard from their coach, the weather is decent. They didn't get the snow we got. Their course is in great condition, and it is a flat, fast course. Women will run 5K, the men will run 8K, and the course consists of probably a 10-foot elevation change over that distance. grass, a little bit of asphalt, and dirt. So it's going to be a fast, flat course, year in, year out. The kids get great times on that course. And so we're excited to see what our kids can do. We are starting our training transition where we're picking up the speed in workouts, and we'll start cutting the volume here in another week or so. So try and get our guys down to from about 65 miles a week down to about 55 in the next couple of weeks, and the women down from about 45 to 35 so that they start to get their legs back and getting ready for the region meet in the middle of November. So any questions?
So if your guys miss, say, a day, Saturday or Sunday because of the weather, does that affect them negatively or positively?
It's definitely going to be a negative effect. I know, as an athlete, when I trained, if I missed a day, I felt pretty rugged coming back the next day trying to get back into it. So, it does have an effect. I think yesterday on the treadmill, some of our people struggled a little bit just because they hadn't run for a couple of days or they had run very little for a couple of days. So there is an effect. We're going to look at this as a positive. We had some kids that were a little bit dinged up, and the 2 days off should help them get their legs back a little bit before this weekend. So we're going to expect the best out of the storm and ignore the difficulties that we can't control. So.
But it's a fast course. What will be the 5 and 8 times?
Well, our top male, Tyler Mack, we would like to see down in the 25-minute range, possibly low 25s. Should be towards the front of the pack. I think there's 10 schools scheduled to be there. Our top women, we would like to see down below 20 minutes for the 5K. The majority of our young guys on the men's team, if we can see them under 27 minutes or in the low 27 range, I think we will have accomplished what we're looking for. So, other questions? Thank you, and I'd like to introduce Coach Collins.
Thanks everybody for coming out. I know we're all still fighting through the snow and that long weekend. I didn't know when Valley City double booked our game and I got that call in early August that it was going to actually work out pretty well because there's no way in heck we were going to play that game on Saturday. In fact, I didn't have power in my house for 2 days, so a lot of Princess Yahtzee with my 4 daughters and some quality bonding time. But we're excited to be back out. We have Missouri Southern this weekend, a very good football team. It is Military Appreciation Day for us, so all military personnel will be let in for the game, and we certainly want to thank them and appreciate them for all their efforts during our game on Saturday. But this is a very good football team that's going to come to Dunham Field on Saturday. They should be in the top 25. I looked at one poll this morning, and they weren't in it. I haven't seen the AFCA poll, but very, very quality. They're 4-1, probably should be 5-0, lost a real close game. They're in the MIAA conference like Tiff talked about. Now, I don't know, Tiff, we drove down to Missouri last year down to Joplin, so I can tell you about that trip. So hopefully that flight's a little bit cleaner. But this is a good football team. They're a triple option team on offense with a ton of speed. Their quarterback's a very talented young man. He was the MIAA Offensive Player of the Week last week in a win against Central Missouri. And if you know the MIAA conference, there's some big heavy hitters in that conference, and Central Missouri is at the top of that. And big win for Missouri Southern last week as they come into town. Very aggressive defensively. They're a 3-3 defense, bring a ton of pressure, a lot of different looks that they're going. So it'll be an exciting football game, and it'll certainly be a great challenge for our players and a great opportunity for our fans to see a high-end Division II football program come into town. What questions can I answer for you about the Missouri Southern game or anything in general about the program?
Can you tell us about some of the rankings that school lines in as far as the NCAA Division II ranking?
Sure. Yeah, we've been fortunate, and we don't spend a lot of time in statistics with our players, but our offense right now is they're ranked nationally in points per game. They're at the top of the nation in red zone success, which is huge because what's happened in the first 5 games is when we've got the ball in the red zone, we've scored every time, and that's a critical point to what we're trying to do. So we've done a really good job of obviously putting points on the board, but putting points on the board, we're in there in that red zone piece, and that's been one of the reasons we've had success. Defensively, I think we're second in the nation in turnover cause. I haven't seen the new stats. I know that's what it was last week. And so even though we've given up some yardage on defense and then some points, we've done a great job of getting turnovers, getting the ball back into our offense's hands, and they've been able to score points. So those two working together, we've ranked very high nationally with at the Division II level, and we certainly need to keep that going throughout the season. Yep.
Success.
Yeah, keys to success is not allow the big plays on their piece offensively. They got a breakout group, and anytime you're playing a true triple option team, or they're more than just a triple, but when you see that, it's being gap sound and being able to tackle in space. And they've got so many weapons in so many different areas. That's where they've caught people off guard. If you miss an assignment, you miss a tackle in space, it's not going to be a 5 or 6 yard gain. It's going to be a 50 or 60 yard gain. So we got to do a tremendous job with that on the defensive side. Offensively, we've got to be able to. They're going to have some negative yardage plays against us. That's the nature of what they do defensively, but we've got to be able to hit some big hitters also and match that point for point, and we got to win the special teams game. They're a very solid special teams unit. We've got to find a way to tilt the scales in the special teams end. So.
The offensive recruiting, you guys do any of that?
Well, we certainly had a plan to get some done, and once things hit here on Friday, that shut a lot of it down. So we were able to do some things behind the scene. We did get some work done on the recruiting front, not as much as I would have liked, because we had 2 days trying to get a handful of things done. But we'll catch up with it. We'll get it going. We did get some done, but I don't know if you can ever recruit enough on that piece.
There's some local teams that you try to hit.
We do, and we've done a pretty good job locally, but locally it was tough on this week, It was tough. But, when we went out to William George, we swung by Sioux Falls, and we were able to hit most of the high schools up with that piece, get a chance to watch those guys run around and practice. Then we did a booster function with some of our local alums over in the Sioux Falls piece, so that was good. We went out quite a bit locally, and obviously with the local high schools playing on our field, that's a great advantage for us, so we're able to take a peek at the local talent here and some of the other teams that they've come in. So we want to make sure we encompass our backyard first and then leak out to what we call our satellite areas. But we got a pretty good handle, I think, within the state of South Dakota and the outlying areas. Great. Once again, appreciate everybody coming out. Looking forward to seeing you on Saturday. All right, well, that'll be it for today again. Thanks for those that did make it in today. The next couple weeks, I know our golf coaches are going to be in either next week or the following week. We'll get some student athletes in here, and definitely a lot to talk about next week with everybody playing and 6 games for some teams and all that stuff. So, and then basketball starts on Tuesday as well, but with the fall sports going and the gym packed the next couple months, it's going to be interesting around here, and we'll get a chance to, like I said, bring in some of the student athletes too and talk about their experiences as well. Thanks again for coming out.